Welcome into the noon dish. We are not live today because we've got a special guest coming on the show in a little bit later, but that's Don Callahan. I'm Tommy Ashley. We're always sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt, johnnyt-shirt.com. Go to Franklin Street or go online because if you're watching Don Callahan, you've already gone, or most of you should have already gone. If you haven't already gone, go to InsideCarolina.com, sign up for the premium message boards. You get all of Don Callahan's content. You get all the basketball recruiting content and some of the baseball content and the rest of the unbelievable content we've got at Inside Carolina on the On3 network. So if you haven't migrated over to Inside Carolina on On3 network, do so by doing InsideCarolina.com, sign up, join the fun. Don, we're not live today because we got a special guest coming in. I'm not going to spoil it.
Okay.
It's a big name, a big fella. He will join
Well, aren't
us a
they
little
going to
bit
know
later.
once they see the title?
Maybe. Yeah. Don't look at the title, folks. If you haven't looked at the title, either way, Don's spoiling my moment every time. We've got Trashawn Ruffin joining us here in a little bit. He will join Don and I, talk about his commitment, talk about being recruited by Belichick and Lombardi, and talk about what it's like to be an inside or be a North Carolina commitment as the season has not gone as planned. But Don, let's look ahead. No top five today, no chat MVP. We'll save those for when we're live. But this weekend, Virginia comes to Chapel Hill, another noon kickoff, which is terrible if for most folks, but you play when they put it on the schedule. The recruits will show up. What kind of crowd do you expect, Don? And how? And before you do that, how does a 12 noon kickoff affect the crowd if it does?
Yeah, you're talking about the recruiting crowd, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think what it does is it makes travel. It limits the pool of players who could visit. If it was a later game, that makes travel a lot easier. You got to remember that most of these kids, unless they're on an off week, they're playing on Friday night. They're not getting home until after midnight, depending on what's kind of going on after the game and all of that. And then if they want to get to North Carolina, they're driving through the night basically for a noon kickoff. Whereas, if it's 8 p.m., 3:30, depending on where you live, you can wake up at a decent time and hit the road and get to Chapel Hill at a good time. So I expect it to not be as much as we've seen most of the prior home games, because of that fact. And then also the season's not going so well. It's also not, we did our list of attractive games, and where was that? Do you remember on our list of attractive home games for recruits?
I think TCU was 1, Clemson was 2. They might have been 1A and 1B.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Duke was 3, if my memory serves. And then Virginia was 4. Stanford would have been 5. And then, of course, Richmond would have been last. So Virginia's on the back end of the hump there,
Mm-hmm.
but still a rivalry game, an ACC game. And so
it's like a sneaky rivalry game. Like I don't think, me as an outsider didn't realize North Carolina and Virginia was a rivalry game. You know what I mean? But I know for a UNC fan, you grow up and it is a rivalry game. So it's not super attractive for recruits. And so I don't expect like a massive turnout. A lot of the commits have told me this is not a game they're going to, even like, and a lot of this stuff can change. Like Xavier Griffin Hayes told me he's probably going to skip out on this weekend. Now he could wake up Saturday morning. I mean, it's a short trip for him and decide that he wants to go to Chapel Hill. So I don't expect a whole lot, but what North Carolina will have is official visitors. And we are aware of 3 of them. And a lot of this is because of just the coaching carousel has already been in full swing. And UNC is taking advantage of that and trying to poach some players from commitment lists that don't have a head coach.
Yeah, so you've got those lists, and stay tuned to Don Callahan on the Inside Carolina Premium Message Boards, the one I was just talking about when we opened the show, that if you're a member of Inside Carolina, you can see Don's work there. The coaching carousel, like you said, in full swing, Penn State, Florida, other schools making moves. Florida State came out and said that they're going to ride it out this season. We'll see how long that lasts after losing to Stanford. And so there's a lot of moving parts here, a lot of work to be done. And Don Mike Lombardi and Bill Belichick have talked about building through the high school ranks and getting
Mhm.
these official visitors. All the portal stuff from all these schools with coaching changes will come at a later date, or at least officially at a later date. But how does coaching change? How do coaching changes across the area, across the country, sort of affect maybe the idea of the size of this class? We've talked about 35 to 40 guys in the high school class. Do firings elsewhere sort of push that number up, or how's it work?
Yeah, I think it gives the opportunity to push that number up because I if nobody lost their head coach, which we know that would never happen, but if nobody lost their head coach, the pool of realistic targets that North Carolina would want to go after would be very, very, very shallow, very shallow. Um, but once, we saw it with, Penn State, once they fired James Franklin, UNC immediately. And we have a full scoop that goes into detail. Actually, I guess the past couple weeks we've covered this, but definitely this week on Monday we posted a scoop that goes into detail on some of this. That North Carolina reached out to about at least half a dozen of Penn State's commitments. Some of them have remained committed. Some of them have fully decommitted. Some of them are committed but are still taking visits. And UNC's offered a few of them, and a few of them have scheduled official visits. One of them is Julian Peterson, a high 3-star cornerback from New Jersey, who is scheduled to officially visit North Carolina this weekend. And then with Florida, that's a little bit more fresher because what Penn State happened 2 weeks ago, Florida just happened on Sunday. So, but even with that short period of time, I mean, North Carolina immediately scheduled some official visits with, or got in on some of those Florida commitments and scheduled a couple of official visits, and it seems like that's just the start of it. So yeah, it creates the opportunity, whether it actually results in North Carolina adding commitments to this class is, there's a lot of factors involved. Mostly what happens at those particular schools. That how long does it take those schools to hire a new coach? Who do they hire? And if that new coach, do they want these players? I mean, we know we've been through the process. There's certain commitments that the new staff is not interested in, and so that obviously creates some opportunities. And even if they're interested, is the recruit interested in the head coach, and or do they all of a sudden kind of fall in love with another school? So it does create an opportunity for North Carolina to help reach its goal of a class that's 40 plus commitments.
As you like to say, case by case
Case
basis.
by case basis,
It
yes.
is interesting, though, that when you fire a coach in October, what do you do about hiring a coach? There's a lot
Yeah.
of back channel working. I mean, if you're hiring a guy that is working somewhere else, he's not. I don't know if I've ever seen a case where they quit mid-season. If Penn
Yeah.
State wants to get somebody who's still coaching, I mean, we certainly heard during Bill Belichick's hiring and coaching assistant. They're looking at coaches that are still in the playoffs. They're looking at this. They're looking at that, and we see how those played out. But a lot of inner workings there. But to your point, it becomes increasingly important for kids to commit to a school, not a coach.
Yeah.
And we see the ones that stick usually do that. You also bring in, and I don't think you can answer this, but maybe you can provide color for it. Somebody asked you about NIL allocation on the message boards, and I get, that's not a question that can be answered really, but I wonder what happens to NIL contracts
Yeah.
or paperwork when the coaching staff gets fired? Does it just go away?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. But my assumption, and I mean you're the legal expert here, not me. My assumption is that those contracts have some sort of out clause that would cover that, but I don't know. I know the rev share stuff can't be signed until, I know they were messing with that date, but I guess it's in December. But obviously NIL contracts are a little bit different and there's no uniformity whatsoever. And that's kind of part of it. I'd be shocked if there's not some out there that have some sort of out clause because the head coach is fired. But as I mentioned, there's just a lot of different people who are involved in creating these contracts. Who knows what the hell they look like? You have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you sign a contract with the school, we've seen that they don't have a lot of teeth anyway.
Yes, that's true too.
Because we've seen guys allegedly sign them and then jump in the portal and they're gone. But I don't know anything about that kind of law. You hurt somebody, I can tell you about that law.
Okay.
But the civil aspect and all this kind of stuff right here, that's not the angle that I'm familiar with. But we need more lawyers, just more lawyers to come in and tell us everything about it. I'd be interested to know, though, seriously, how it works. And
Yeah.
To be quite honest, I'm not sure anybody does know. And
No.
but I know there's a lot of people have made a lot of money looking at it and talking about it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So something to watch. Like I said, Don's work on the premium message boards, Florida, Penn State, and Don, historically, those two schools recruit this area, and North Carolina certainly recruits those areas. So it is ripe for discussion and likely to be some churning there of the waters with these turnovers, right?
Yeah, and depending on who they hire, I mean, poaching could come the other way. I think North Carolina is probably in a good spot because the coaches that are on staff, a lot of them are directly connected with Belichick. So, and they're there specifically for Belichick. So you don't have to worry about a lot of people leaving and then poaching players and that sort of thing. But, whoever Florida hires or Penn State hires, maybe there's somebody on North Carolina's commitment list that they absolutely love. And maybe they try to put, a lot of effort into getting that commitment, so there's a little bit of that. And there's also just in the future, like how much, because, Florida, both Penn State and Florida have kind of almost gone through cycles where some classes, it feels like they are just always in the Tar Heel state. And then some classes you feel like you just never hear from those programs, at least overlapping with North Carolina. So those are definitely coaching hires that you want to keep an eye on because it will have recruiting implications for North Carolina, not just this class, but in future classes.
You're a Pennsylvania guy. Who you want Penn State to hire?
I don't know. I mean, if you give me options, I could tell you who I think would be good. My problem, and we touched on this a little bit, is that, I mean, I wasn't 100% on board with getting rid of James Franklin. I mean, who's going to be better? That's the problem with some of these. You make a move just to make a move. Hopefully the Penn State brass has an idea of what they want to do. But what's his name from Nebraska?
Matt Rule.
Matt Rule. Yeah. I mean, he's a name constantly connected. Is he that much better than James Franklin, especially since they laid an egg on Saturday? So I don't have, if they go, I mean, I've seen, you see all these crazy sort of connections and you never know what to believe. But yes, I don't personally have a preference. But we'll see how.
Lane Kiffin to Penn State. I'm starting.
Lane Kiffin's a fun coach. You know what I mean?
Hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know if he wants. I don't know if he wants to be in the Big Ten. I think if anything,
no.
Florida makes a little sense for him. But
no, I'm joking. I'm 100% joking. I don't want people to say, "Well, I heard on this show that Lane Kiffin was." No, I just 100%. I just think, every opening that pops up, Lane Kiffin's a fan favorite. It was interesting. Jason Staples did a hot board for Florida State, and
Mm.
some of the names he had on there were very interesting. So you're going to have some big schools looking. So if I'm Penn State, if I'm Florida, you better lock them in. Whoever you get, you better lock them in as soon as possible, and we'll see what happens. Talking with Don Callahan on Inside Carolina's Noon Dish, not live on the normal Wednesday at noon, but this is recorded. Hope you are consuming this, whether it's online, or excuse me, whether it's on the podcast feed or here on the YouTube channel. We will talk about Johnny T-shirt, johnnytshirt.com. Johnny T-shirt is the place to go for your Carolina swag. You get that premium subscription. Like I said, you get your 10% off your order. If you're a member of Inside Carolina, you get a ton of content. You get everything you could possibly ever want. And let me tell you, folks, it is a massive content week for Inside Carolina. Next week, starting on, I believe, the 26th of October. No, excuse me, starting Friday, this Friday, we'll have BYU postgame. This is all basketball talk for a second, Don. BYU postgame. Then we'll have the day after on Sunday, Carolina football in Virginia. Then we'll have just a ton of basketball content along with the normal football content leading into Carolina's season opener in basketball on November 3rd. It is a great time to be an Inside Carolina member. So if you're not already there, go to InsideCarolina.com, sign up with the On3 Network, get your subscription, get your code for Johnny T-shirt, and spend that money. We'll be talking about Christmas soon enough. National guys can pay the bills. We'll be right back with the Noon Dish.
All right, we are back with Trashawn Ruffin, four-star defensive lineman committed to North Carolina from North Duplin High School in Mount Olive, North Carolina, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's give a little background. I know, so correct me if I'm wrong with any of this stuff. I guess last football season, you were recruited by the prior staff. Did they ever end up actually offering you?
Yep, they actually did. I had went to a camp the summer before they offered me, and then they really liked me, and something was wrong, but they ended up offering me like a few months after that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I
Yep.
think they wanted you to kind of work on classroom stuff. I think it was right, something like that.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So then obviously they're out the door. In comes Bill Belichick and Michael Lombardi. Actually, let me take a step back. You end up committing to Texas A&M
Correct.
in it was last football season. So what went into that decision?
I just felt like it was home for me at the time. Really loved the staff. I loved the vibes around there. Loved the atmosphere. It was just great as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, as I said, fast forward, Belichick gets hired in December. Lombardi comes with him. When did you first start hearing from? I guess it was Michael Lombardi who reached out to you first, right?
It was actually Coach Thompson that
Oh, Coach Lance
reached out to me
Thompson.
first.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So when did you first start hearing from him?
So it wasn't long after Bill Belichick came in office. You know, Bill was about to come to my school actually, but the weather was real bad that at the time. So he sent one of his recruiters out there and he talked to me and he was talking about how bad Bill and everybody at there had wanted me really, really, really bad.
Okay. So then you go and you took a visit, and then I
Yep.
think you came back again and actually committed, right? Is that how it went down,
Yep.
or kind of break down how it went down?
So basically, yep. So when I went on that visit, great visit, like one of the best visits I ever had. And a few weeks later, I had came back up there and I actually committed right then. Went up there in person and told them that I was going to commit.
Well, I remember the conversation. You mentioned that it was very important for you to do it in person because it
Yep.
wasn't a junior day or a basketball game when you actually went up there and committed. It was a visit that you had set up on your own with your family. Take me through, why was that important for you to do it in person as opposed to just calling on the phone, putting a graphic out there and all that other stuff?
Because I think it's more like, how can I put this? Professional to actually look them in the eyes and let them know like I'm locked in. Like I want to actually commit. I want to stay here. here. I don't want to go nowhere else. I think it's more professional just doing it that way instead of going on the phone. I mean, you can tell them, you tell a person anything on the phone, but in person, you can actually get a heartfelt message to them or from them, and I think it's just better like that.
What was it about North Carolina that made you want to make the commitment? Switch your commitment from Texas A&M to UNC.
I mean, it's Bill Belichick, man. That's an easy access to the NFL right there, man. You can't. I feel like you can't turn that down at all. Like, got the best staff in college football right now. You know what I'm saying? Best D-line coach out there. And it's just the development piece where you can just go in there and just work under a NFL program, basically.
That leads us into the one direction we wanted to go into is a lot of us have been watching Bill Belichick forever, before you were probably born. Coaching definitely before you were born with the New York Giants. I can remember him as
Yep.
defensive coordinator there. Patriots, all the accomplishments with the Patriots, Super Bowls and all that. So what's it like for you? What was it like to meet him for the first time, meet Bill Belichick for the first time?
It was crazy. Like nothing else, man. It was actually wild because I'll never forget. I was in the D-line room with Coach Diaco, and they was going over their little practice plan and everything. And Coach Belichick walked in. I'm like, "Yo, is that Bill Belichick?" Like, this is crazy. Like, just seeing him in person is like absolutely wild. But man, he's probably the coolest head coach I ever talked to.
What was when you first met him? What was the conversation? Was it just like a normal conversation, or what was that conversation about?
Honestly, yep, it was just a normal conversation. Me and him shook hands, looked each other in the face. How you doing, man? We real excited for you to get up here with you and your family. Just short and brief.
What? I'll let Tommy jump in. I'm dominating this conversation too much.
No, I'm just sitting back and listening because
Yeah.
I mean I can imagine being from. Look, my college roommate was from North Duplin High School. Is it still as small as it was back then?
Well, we actually just moved up to a two-way.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Because I remember our first week of school. This is way back. We walk into Biology 101 at Carolina, and the classroom's bigger than his whole high school. He was
Yeah.
like, "What am I doing here?" So for you, I know you were committed to Texas A&M, but what's it mean to come home and be committed to a school where everybody, your family can go, friends can go and see you play? How big a role was that?
Huge. Like you said, my whole family, everybody can actually come and see me. I'm only an hour and 40, so I need to take a trip there. Boom, we can hit the road. And be there in less than 2 hours. It just means a whole lot. The connections is more valuable, I think, and I just love it as a whole.
Is down there in Duplin County, is that Carolina country? Is that East Carolina and NC State country down there?
I say it's a mix of everything, literally. Like, yeah, most people is state fans. Most people is state, and a lot is Carolina, but there's a whole lot that's ECU fans. So, like I said, it's a mix of everything, literally.
Right.
So
How much?
can we talk a little bit more about Duplin County, because I don't think people realize it is, for high school football, it's a hotbed, especially with the smaller schools. Can you just give people a little bit of a background on and producing college players? Just give people background on just the teams in Duplin County.
Man, cornbread fed. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's just natural strength down here. It's some hard workers. I can't say that. It's some real hard workers down here.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah.
So
Defy
let
the
me ask
odds,
you.
man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, back before I knew my roommate, it was all about pickles down there. That's all I knew about Duplin County. And
Yeah.
he told me a lot.
Man.
I went and hung out in Faison, and like I said, that was 30 years ago, so it's probably a lot different. But let me ask you. Let me ask you about watching Carolina this year. Is it tough to be a recruit and see the struggles on the field like that, or do you see it as opportunity for you?
I expected that. A huge opportunity. You know, I expected it. Honestly, I mean, Coach Belichick ain't really had no recruiting class. You know, he just pulled people out of the portal. You know, it's something that I kind of expected. That I already knew. Like when 26 class coming to the picture, it's gonna be. It's gonna be. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna make that change.
So
So I'm not
when
honestly.
people,
I'm not too much worried about it. I know we gonna be all right. I already know that. I already know that for sure.
yeah, yeah, I mean, because I mean, you live in it, so you got fans
Yep.
that live it out on the outside, and so that's why I wanted people to understand how people in the middle of it feel. Don,
Yep.
go ahead. Don's getting jealous of me taking up your time. Get in, Don.
Well, along those lines, and Tommy and I have talked about this a bunch because I get asked a lot. You know, once, and this is not just now; it's with other coaches when there's a losing streak, you know, during the season, just about the impact on the commits. And my feeling, just talking to commits, and you know, you and I, we text pretty frequently, at least once a week, and the feeling is always by this point. I mean, you've been committed for I don't know how many, what, six, probably like 8 months
Since
now.
March. Since March. Yep.
Since March. Okay, so yeah, about 7 months now.
Yep.
So, you know, it's your school now. So it's not like, you know, for a typical recruit, you're not looking to jump ship. You're looking to protect it more. Am I right on that? Or what is, because I'm sure when you're in school, you're hearing it from teachers, especially if they're NC State fans. You're hearing
Yep.
it from classmates and all that. What's it like? Are you feeling like you're defending the school, your school sort of thing?
Yes, for sure. For sure.
So what is it like, you know, just because, you know, when people kind of give you a little bit of a hard time on just how North Carolina's going?
Sir.
How's it like, I mean, are you a guy who immediately kind of fights back or you just kind of laugh it off? I mean, I know you're a jolly guy, but what's kind of your
Uh,
response when you get a little ribbing?
I mean, I do kind of both. You know what I'm saying? Because I laugh because I already know what's going to happen in the future, and I fight back because I mean, a lot of people ain't, you know, trusting the process. Of course they not. I mean, who isn't? I mean, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people ain't.
Don't want to keep you much too long, but how's your season going? How you feel like you're playing and developing there in your senior season, and what's next for you?
It's going great,
Um,
actually. So we're 7-1 right now. We're dominating like crazy, man. We about to get another win this week, and I think I developed really well, like especially in the off season last year. I think I developed really well. You know, if I get a double, triple team, you know, I'll fight through it and I get the tackle every time, man. So I know from that point on, I know I developed really, really hard.
So I wanted to ask you also just about what is the, you know, on a weekly basis, what's the communication like with the UNC staff? Who are you talking to? How frequently? Is it just text messages? You hopping on the phone with anybody? What's that like?
Yep. So Coach Thompson usually, you know what I'm saying, he'll text or call once a week actually, and you know check up on me, and that's literally all the time. And then you got Coach Lombardi, me and him talk from time to time. You know, all of us as a whole, we just it's not an everyday thing, but you know what I'm saying, we always have a brief conversation whenever we do talk.
Hmm. Okay. And the last thing I want to ask you, which was a question that Tommy posed to me earlier, is, you know, are you going to be at the game on Saturday?
Yes, sir. You know,
Okay. Okay. Do you know of any other commits that are going to be there also? Or do you guys talk about that at all?
I know about one.
I think you were breaking up there. What was that?
I said, Billy, I finally get it.
Yeah, I think we're losing you. If you can still hear me, Trashawn, I really appreciate you coming on, and I will most likely see you on Saturday.
hey man, be safe. We're gonna drop you out. We don't want to keep you too much longer. Appreciate your
Sir,
time, my
thank you.
man.
Thank you, Trashawn. I'll
Yes,
see
sir.
you
Thank you.
Saturday.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep. Take care. All right, Don. He is out.
All
The
right.
the wonders of doing interviews on the road, but props to Trashawn for joining us here, and I hope folks got a little bit of insight, especially on the I don't want to call it fretting or worry or whatever, that a lot of fans do, all of us do when we're watching a team we have skin in the game, or like, is you worry about what it looks like on the field and worry about how it affects the future. And Don, I mean, you've said it before, and folks just heard it there from Trashawn himself, who's one of the biggest recruits for this class. He's not worried about what's going on the field in 2025 for North Carolina, which I know that's not always the case, and
Yeah,
it's a case by case basis.
case by case basis. But
But when you
the
listen
vast
to him,
majority,
you
though,
believe it.
yeah, and I think the vast majority take his position. But yes, there are definitely some instances of kids who get a little scared. But I think, and this goes to why I think it's valuable to recruit close to home. It's a lot easier to convince a kid who's an hour and 40 minutes away from campus, as he laid out, that everything's going to be okay, than it is a kid all the way across the country, in California, who has to start weighing some things because it's a big move for him. So, yeah, I think that, as a whole, I think the commits, until it starts to get, and we're not at the spot, so I'm not saying we are, or that we're going to get to this during the season, until it starts to the point where there's coaching changes. That's when you start to see, or the serious threat of coaching changes, that's when we start to see commits start to really kind of waver. But before that, it's more about, this is my team. We're going to get it worked out. Once I get here, I'm going to be a part of that force that helps this team get better. And that's the mentality. And I think you saw that when we were talking to Trashawn.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, is schools have to show a commitment to who they have because of situations like that right there. Why'd you commit to Carolina? Well, it's a hometown school, but Bill Belichick, man, I mean, and so there's the value in having a coach like that. Now, they need to produce on the field. Let's don't get it twisted. They got to put out a better product than they've been putting out. But you recruit, and to your point, and we harp on this all the time, and I tell people, that anybody that'll listen, the importance of in-state recruiting. That's why it's called the footprint, and that's why it's important, Don. And that, quite frankly, has what's worried a lot of people watching how they've been recruiting, is there's so many guys and so many players from all over. And to your point, you mentioned California guys or others way out of if there's no direct tie to the school you're committed to, other than that you're committed to them for a coach or for whatever, and it goes sideways, then it's easy to just say, I'm not going to get on that plane.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stay home. So what do you expect from a guy like Trashawn Ruffin on the field? I mean, he's obviously a large human being. He's playing at North Duplin. He said they moved up to 2A. That there's some competition on that level, but it is not.
No,
it's certainly not college level.
No,
it's not even Charlotte level. So what do you expect how it translates?
We talked about this, and this is not. I love Duplin County, has a lot of really good high school football, but it is a fact that I don't believe that Trashawn will share the field with another big Power 4 recruit all season long. And that's not a shot at him or a shot at the football. That's just how it is. When you compare that to, if you go to Huff High School, I mean, you're in practice, you're on the field with 3 other Power 4 recruits, and then on most Fridays, you're playing against a team that has a bunch of Power 4 recruits, and that makes a huge difference. And I'm sure that there's instances where Ruffin is going up against linemen on the opposite team that are probably 100 pounds lighter than he is. I mean, he's a big boy. I think he's 340, something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's a very real possibility that he's, the reason why he's getting triple teamed is because the other team has no chance of stopping him otherwise. So I think, yes, that's going to create more of a learning curve for him. He has the tools. He has great size, but if you just go on his Twitter account, you'll see plenty of a video of him working on his footwork, working on his quickness. So that stuff obviously is speaks well for his future and what he's going to be able to do. So there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment to going up against guys that are his size, which he's not doing now. And I think it usually takes a couple of seasons for that adjustment. But I think really, I mean, this is a kid who has very high potential. I hate to kind of put super high, expectations on a kid, but I mean, I think he's a kid who has potential to be a multi-year starter and an NFL draft pick if everything kind of comes together and he makes the adjustments that he needs to make.
Let's be honest. 6'3", 330, 340-pound human beings don't grow on trees.
Yeah.
And I kind of picture North Duplin again. No disrespect to down there, but you've seen the video. It's all over TikTok. It's been all over. It's been circulating forever. It's like, can you point to the Alabama recruit when they're coming out of the locker room? And it's like me and you coming out, and then this gigantic dude comes out.
Yeah.
For the high school, but he's working hard. He's going to, the thing is, Don, and this is what you like, if you follow this stuff, is you got a guy like that that's worked out himself, works out his high school, and then you get him into a college strength and conditioning program. You get him with a Moses Cabrera, you get him with guys like that, and then you're looking, to your point, at a young man that can really be special. And defensive tackles, they are the chef's kiss as far as the defense. You got to have them, and we've seen that for North Carolina. That is Trashawn Ruffin, class of 2026, North Duplin High School, right here in North Carolina, right down I-40 from Chapel Hill, Mount Olive. Get your pickles and your high school football. I prefer Mount Olive dill pickles to any pickles out there. That'll start a fight with some people. But at any rate, anything left here, Don, for the noon dish? Not going to go an hour because we don't have the fan interaction we normally have, but a relatively small, not a huge day for Carolina. What do you think about – let me ask you a football question.
Okay.
You always ask me team questions. A lot of talk at Bill Belichick's press conference today, both to the players, and we had Chad Lindbergh and end up having Leroy Jackson instead of Gavin Gibson. A lot of talk about not moral victories, but positive momentum. Can you build off of the Cal game and all this? Can you do that? Can you build off a Cal game? Can you build off a game against a team that's not very good that you still lost, but you did have some positives? How do you see that working for this team?
I think there is something that could be said about confidence, and they felt like they had a legitimate chance of winning that game, which there's, other than the 2 wins, there was no other, the other games just felt like absolute blowouts. So that's got to help. I think, though, from a fan perspective, or even from your coaching perspective, you got to take it into consideration that, because I always hate, and this is not just, to take it off of UNC for a second, they'll talk about, one of the guy on ESPN will talk about how a team finished the season, how they finished it strong with 4 wins, and they produced so many more yards, so many more points than the prior games, not taking into consideration who they played is massive. So I think that, to answer your question, I think this team definitely needed some confidence boost, and this potentially could have helped them with that. But I think as far as like what this team is, if we're kind of looking at it, we do have to remember that this is Cal, who's not very good, who lost a lot of players also, including a potential, first round quarterback, and all of that. And, it's a true freshman quarterback, right? Who they're playing against. And, so you got to take that in consideration. But I think you could definitely get some positive of that. What's going to be interesting is Belichick taking the positives out of that and using that to enforce his team. Because if you read his books, he's not into any of that. He's not into the moral victories. He definitely approaches the whole coaching aspect as a process. He says in his book how he's not a rah-rah guy, doesn't believe in any of that sort of stuff. So I wonder if maybe he's changed that mentality to maybe, kind of say, hey, maybe we do need to kind of give them some positive reinforcement, because there was some, I hate the word moral victories, but because I think if you improve, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, for
Thoughts?
sure. I think he talked about that today at the press conference. Is you take the good things and you improve on them, and you get rid of the bad things. So it's going to be interesting. Virginia's a good ball club, and we saw the Chandler Morris reports that he was interested in Carolina, and Lombardi said they didn't want him, and then Belichick said there's no truth to that. Don't know where that stuff comes from. Chandler Morris himself said that he never contacted Carolina and never talked to anybody at Carolina. So just it's a bunch of noise for North Carolina playing Virginia on Saturday. To the Cal point, though,
there's no benefit to any of those confirming the report, especially since it probably was handled more on the agent Lombardi level.
Absolutely.
And probably didn't reach Belichick, because it sounds like Lombardi threw it out right away. And I'm sure that
it's interesting. It's
interesting. All right, I'll leave it alone.
So let me ask a question. A, do you have a light?
I can turn a light on.
No, you don't have to now because we're about done. And B, I'm going to spread us out so I can see. Well, you don't have anything to show. I got all my swag over here. I need to.
The problem I have is that when we started, the sun was out, and so.
And now we're in nighttime.
Yeah, now the sun is down, and the light switch is just a little bit out of arm's reach, or else I would have hit it at some point, because I noticed it too. So hopefully, we're probably going to get complaints.
No, we're not, because noon dish after dark. It's all good. I don't have anything left. I'm gonna get out of here. It's been a fun noon dish. Props to Trashawn Ruffin for checking us out. I'm sure he has plenty of other things he could be doing, practicing, schoolwork.
Well, look like he was driving. He was getting someplace.
And he was riding. So props to him for joining us here. Hope you enjoyed that aspect of the interview of the noon dish. Don with his recruiting scoops on the Inside Carolina Tar Pit Premium message boards. Go check them out. I say it all the time. Join up, InsideCarolina.com. Get on there and get Don's stuff. It's not free, but it's worth every penny. Don Callahan, I'm Tommy Ashley. Johnny T-shirt as well. It's been a noon dish. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Tommy.